he, him. I am the paint stewardship and recycling specialist for CDPHE. I will not be talking to you today about paint stewardship, but want to let you all know that that is my primary role with the state, and always happy to talk about that if you do want to know more about that program. Um, Today I will be talking about SB 23-253, which is the standards for products represented as compostable. I will probably refer to it as SB 23-253 or the Compostable Labeling Act, moving here on out. And as Liz did say, do sit on the board of directors for Recycle Colorado, and I was going to say that, so thanks, Liz, for ensuring that I did mention that. Yeah, let's jump right on in. Let's first talk about. Let's see, my screen is moving. So, to long story short, the act itself creates standards for products represented as compostable, and it also creates prohibitions for products that are not certified compostable. And the scope of the act itself is really specific to food service products and plastic products. I think this is an important thing to say because there are things that do get kicked out because of that. So when we're talking about the scope, we are referring to these two things. So food service products being a product intended for one-time use and that is used for food or drink that is offered for sale or use. So that's the definition from the Act language. If you are interested in following along in the actual Act language, I do have in the bottom left-hand corner on most of the slides where I am referring to the Act language. So just so you are aware, and when you come back to this, if you are going to reference this slideshow again. And then a plastic product. So a product made of plastic, whether alone or in combination with another material. So that includes paperboard. So if we do have a, let's say, hot paper coffee cup, under the definition of the act, that would be defined as a plastic product. So anytime there's any plastic, that product is going to be kicked into that plastic product definition. So why was SB 23-253 put into place? Well, I'm sure all of you are familiar with this, but falsely marketed food service ware and packaging products as compostable create confusion, causing undue cost burden to consumers. It increases costs and operational challenges for compost manufacturers. It contaminates the compost streams, and it reduces the value of finished compost or makes it unmarketable altogether. So really trying to solve this big issue here in the state. To talk about the timeline here quickly, this bill was signed into law on May 17th of 2023, and then it went into effect. The first part of the act language went into effect on January 1st. So I like to think of the January 1st timeline as looking at those bad actors who may be intentionally trying to confuse a consumer and to ensure that those products aren't utilizing anything that or would unknowingly confuse a consumer into thinking that the product is compostable. There are a couple caveats to that. That's not like entirely true in terms of like what happened on January 1st. And I'll get into more of those details. But then on July 1st, the requirements for products represented as compostable went into effect. So it gave a little bit of timeline for the folks that are trying to do the right thing, those certified compostable products, a little bit more time to come into compliance. And now, as of August 15th, we are well into the act now, and it has all been implemented. So let's talk a little bit more about that. So I want to first mention what our role is at CDPHE. So I think I mentioned this quickly in the snack and share, but we are part of our role is to do the education outreach for this act. That's in collaboration with local governments. So we should be conducting out, education outreach activities to inform retail establishments, consumers, producers, and retailers about the requirements and prohibitions. So that's really my role in terms of in terms of, there are several folks in my unit working on this. I'm overseeing education and outreach. So as I mentioned earlier, in the water cooler section of the Snack and Share, if anybody is a local government and are looking to touch base more on how we could be implementing better education outreach activities to their communities, certainly want to touch base and ensure that we are getting that information out to you and whatever resources we can provide from the state level. We have also created a complaint form. This is on our website, and I'm going to talk a little bit more later about how to submit a good complaint or a better complaint. We are also doing some revamping on our complaint form just to ensure that people are providing as many specifics as possible, to better accommodate the request from the Attorney General's office and to ensure that we're getting as much information as possible. My unit, and then we then forward legitimate complaints to the Attorney General's office. I'm getting a notification that my internet is unstable, so if there's any comes a time where you all miss what I'm saying, please feel free to interrupt me. Okay. So some other context. So the act did not include rulemaking authority or funding beyond the first year of implementation. So what does that mean for us? CDPHE must interpret the requirements of the statute directly as written. And if you have emailed me before about this act, may have gotten sort of a standard response from me on that. So it does not leave a lot of room for us to provide clarity or interpretation on what the act is trying to say. Of course, as our department, we are having to make determinations on products based on the act language. So you can just anticipate based on what kind of question you are submitting, or if you are putting in a complaint, that this is how we are going to be reading it, is based on the act language directly as it was written. And if there's any murky areas, we may look further into the intent, but that's about all that we have the authority to do. And then in terms of the funding, there was a very small fiscal note and only for the first year of implementation. So we do not have any additional staff to take this on full time. So this has been sort of spread out between a couple members of our staff. And we all have other job duties as well. So just something to be aware of while we are implementing this. And then lastly, I'll just repeat that this act is limited to food service products and plastic products. Okay, I'm now going to get into these key provisions. I'm going to start in section 804, which were those provisions that went into effect on January 1st, and then I'll talk about the ones that went into July 1st. It's a little backwards because we're going to talk a little bit about the requirements for non-certified compostable products first. But there's only so many ways that you can do this linearly. I'm just going to continue now. Okay, so January 2024 went into effect the marketing and advertising prohibitions for food service products and plastic products that are not certified compostable. So that includes tinting, color schemes, labeling, or words that are required for products represented as compostable. And also includes labeling images or words that could reasonably be anticipated to mislead consumers into believing that a product is compostable. So some of that language has been specifically called out. A plastic product shall not market or advertise the product in the state using these words or any other similar forms of these words. Biodegradable, natural, decomposable, bioassimilable, etc. So cannot use non-certified compostable products cannot use these words or any words similar to those. And then lastly, this is that one caveat, they put this into section 804, is that compostable products, certified compostable products, shall not advertise or market with a chasing arrow, identification code, or recycling symbol of any form. So yeah, chasing arrows being most folks associate with recycling. Okay, so now I'm going to move into section 803. These are looking more closely at those certified compostable products and ensuring that they're meeting the labeling requirements and that they also meet the certified compostable standard as well. So a producer of a product that is sold, offered for sale, or distributed in the state shall not represent the product as compostable in Colorado unless the certified compostable product is ASTM D6400 or D6868 certified. And I'm sure there's a more smoother way to say those certification numbers that probably the compost folks in the room are laughing at me for. And then to the extent consistent with Federal Trade Commission guidelines and ensures that the product is distinguishable as certified compostable upon quick inspection. So the compostable product and packaging must, and then these are the three key parts that need to be, if you're going to take anything home with you all today, it would be the three ways in which certified compostable products need to be labeled. So one, they need to display a certification logo that indicates the product is compostable. It needs to display the word compostable where possible and to use green color labeling or striping or other easily recognizable green symbols, colors, tinting, marks, or design patterns that differentiate the product from products that are not certified compostable. Okay. Just threw a lot at you. I want to make a plug for some of the resources that we have on our webpage. And I should probably send the link over to you all right now so that you have it available. This is a flow chart that I created specifically for producers, but I think could be useful for just about any party. So I want to ensure that you all have it here. Let me just send this over really quick to everybody. The webpage link that I sent in the chat. At this webpage, you can find the flow chart that's located at the very bottom of the page, and also our FAQs, links from there, and just some general information about the act. This flow chart helps for anybody to understand if something is within the scope of the act or not. It looks like this. This is actually an update I just did a couple days ago to just make a few more things clear. And then this is what it leads out to be. So even if you don't utilize the flow chart, if you're just trying to really understand quickly what your product needs to comply with, these are the two different sections. So products that are compostable versus the ones that are not certified compostable. So that may be helpful. And now I'm going to go into a few more details that I just have not covered yet. So staying in that section 803 on certified compostable products, one thing that is called out are product accessories. So this is anything that is sold with another product. So think of like a straw that is sold with a cup or provided or distributed with that cup, or a label or a lid. So it is not the primary product, but a secondary product that is in addition to the first one. So product accessories are subject to the same requirements as certified compostable products. That would only be an exemption if it was a small product, which I will get to in a second. But product accessories that are sold with certified compostable products but are not certified compostable themselves must display on the product and packaging a label that describes the recyclability of the product accessory or includes the phrase landfill only. So if you have a certified compostable cup and then you have a plastic straw that is not certified compostable, it just will need to be differentiated from the product itself. So something to keep in mind, and that's all in that flow chart, as I mentioned earlier. And then small products. So this means that it has a width of 1/2 inch or less of printable surface space. So gonna pick on straws here, but straws is not as an example, or a utensil would be an example of a small product that may have less than ideal printable surface space. And the reason why this is important, because small products, when they are certified compostable, are only required to comply with one of the three requirements that I had mentioned earlier, the three important points, and I list them here again. So that small product must do one of the following: display a certification logo that indicates the product is certified compostable, or display the word compostable, or use green colored labeling or striping, or easily recognizable green symbols, colors, tinting, marks, or design patterns. Okay. And then one other real key point that people have seemed to have a lot of questions on is in regards to the untreated wood exemption. So the requirements of Section 803 do not apply to a product comprised entirely of untreated wood. So wood is a renewable wood or fiber-based substrate. So that could be a bamboo fork or a paper cup or something of that nature. And untreated wood, meaning raw or kiln dried wood, unpainted and not treated with any chemicals intended to resist decomposition. I would suggest, if this is information that you want to learn more about, our FAQs section has a lot more detail and can get a little bit more into the weeds on this. But yes, that is pretty much it for the key provisions. I wanted to talk a little bit about submitting complaints. We've probably received about maybe a little less than a dozen at this point. That complaint form can be found on that webpage I put in the chat earlier. But we know now that we've received a number of complaints and have kind of gotten down our process of how we go through and vetting them. I just want to provide a few helpful key points that may help you to put together a better complaint for us. So first and foremost, I would suggest looking through the flow chart and our resources before submitting. Is the product in the scope of the act, and is it enforceable? Asking yourself these questions may just be helpful before submitting. And then filling out as much information as possible. So where did you buy it? When did you buy it? Or you may have the act also covers products that are not only bought but also distributed with another product. That coffee cup that you got at the coffee shop is also that product would also be within the scope of the act. So when did you get it? From what store? What kind of product is it? And then so providing any information of, can you provide a link to the online store or the physical store? Can you provide the address of the store? And in the regulatory world that I live in my work every day, photos are very helpful, but they need to be, in order to be very helpful, they need to also be very good. So a couple things that we keep in mind as regulators is taking pictures within the context of which we bought them, or in our various worlds that we work within. So an example of this would be like taking a picture of the coffee cup in front of the coffee shop or within the coffee shop, and maybe in front of the stack of cups that are sitting behind the counter as well, or at a grocery store on the shelf, and maybe a photo that is zoomed out from that original shelf to see the branding of the grocery store that it was at, to provide a little bit more context for us. All of these things are going to help shorten our timeline and be able to make a quicker determination on if this product is enforceable. And one last thing is providing a receipt could also be useful to us as well. So some things to keep in mind as you submit complaints if you plan to. And that complaint form can be found on our website. And as I said earlier, we're planning on updating that a little bit. I see that MJ has a question. I can take that now, and then I think I have maybe one more slide. So, but yeah, MJ.
Um, two questions, and you can answer them later. Sorry, I didn't know. But
Good.
the scope of the law, like you reference physical stores and online retailers. So typically like a coffee shop isn't necessarily responsible for the labeling. They're just buying it from an online store, hotels, whatever, do the same. So at what point, like, does our law stop? Um, like, can anything on Amazon that's labeled oxo-degradable but doesn't have a certificate, like, isn't certified, um, does that fall under our law if we buy it and it ships to Colorado? And then my second question is on PLA and how, like, how I guess the conversations with, um, like, going back to developing this law. I totally agree that the chasing arrows should be removed. But given that that's like very standard with PLA having the 7 with the chasing arrows, how do you envision that's gonna go with manufacturers?
And Malik, if you want to finish your slide and then we can close out the presentation and move into questions and then you could
Yeah,
address those.
that works with me. I will make myself a little note about how far the bill goes and um about the PLA question and resin code. Thank you. Okay, so I just wanted to, this is my last slide before my closing slide. Just want to acknowledge that Recycle Colorado is a diverse group of stakeholders here, and you all are coming from many different standpoints, and that this may look really different from how you are viewing this act language. As a producer, you may be redesigning or retiring products, or determining if you have to. Maybe you are an institution looking at changing your procurement policies because you purchase certified compostable products for events or for in-house use. And maybe you are a composter that is just sick and tired of seeing particular products out on your site and you're submitting complaints. Or maybe your municipality, and because education outreach is also a part of your responsibility, you're determining if this is something that could be implemented in your green business program as a part of the certification process. And I'm sure there are a million other ways that this could be applied to you all, but want to recognize this may be coming to you from various different points, and just wanted to bring up those ideas as maybe some questions you could start asking yourself. Um, that is all I have. So for more questions that don't get answered here, or you want to chat more, there is my email and also our general inbox. That that goes out to my entire unit, so that we'll all get those questions, but either one is fine in terms of sending questions my way. I will likely be the person answering them. So yeah, I will now get to MJ's question. And yeah, looking forward to providing any other clarity on this.